Hey everyone, welcome back to The New Critic, and today we're going to be looking at Supernatural, specifically Season 1. Now, as you all know, Supernatural is coming to an end later this year. The last 7 episodes of the final season will resume airing from October onwards, October 8th I believe it is. Now there are 15 seasons of the show, and the show has been around since 2005, so I can understand what it's like for a lot of longtime fans to see something they grew up with come to an end. Now, before we begin, I'm just gonna give you my relationship with the show. First of all, I did not grow up with it. I didn't know it was a thing until maybe a few years back, but I had no interest in it because, well, I wasn't into TV shows back then. And this one in particular did not catch my interest because, well, it always came off as somewhat of a teen heartthrob kind of thing, and yeah, that really wasn't my thing. Plus, it's one of those shows where each season you don't need to watch every single episode. There's plenty of filler episodes, and I don't mind that, but for me, filler episodes are like, they're best when they're in a Saturday morning cartoon or anime or something like that, I'm not a big fan of that in any live action series. And 15 seasons is a lot, and as of this recording, I am not finished with it yet. I am currently watching season 10. And to be honest, I don't think this show needed to be 15 seasons, but we'll talk more about that in the future. Also, this show incorporates all kinds of, horror elements and stuff like that, and growing up, that wasn't my thing. I wasn't into horror until I finished school and stuff like that. For the next couple of weeks, right up until the show resumes, I'll be reviewing each and every season of the show. And yes, I will also be discussing which episodes in each season are crucial and which ones you can skip. Though there are some Monster of the Week episodes and filler episodes that I can still recommend even if they're not important. Well, mainly because they're a lot of fun anyway. And like I said at the end of my previous video, I don't love the show. I like it. There are a lot of great things about it, but it's not as impactful to me as other shows have been. I guess it's because I didn't grow up with it. So yeah, it isn't particularly nostalgic. So let's get right into it, shall we? So, Season 1 follows two brothers, Sam and Dean Winchester. They set off to find their missing father, John Winchester, after they find his journal, and it contains information on a lot of mysterious occurrences all across the country, and it involves monsters and werewolves and vampires and stuff like that. And if that's your kind of thing, you'll enjoy the show. And not only do they want to find their father after so many years, but, as Dean puts it,
I think he wants us to pick up where he left off. Saving people, hunting things. The family business.
Yeah, the whole hunting thing has been a family business for years. So first of all, I really like the characters of Sam and Dean, and they're played by Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles. They have great chemistry and they feel like genuine brothers. Dean is the kind of guy who has this devil-may-care sort of attitude, kind of like Han Solo, and he's fully adapted to the hunting lifestyle, and he's been in multiple relationships, and they haven't really worked out for him because of his commitment to the family business. Sam, on the other hand, wants to live a normal life, go to college, get married, and start a family, But he's drawn back into his past for reasons that are understandable. And in retrospect, it's kind of cool to see Sam and Dean in their younger days, especially after going back and watching it. No matter how much of the show you've watched already. Their father, John Winchester, is also in this season, and he's played by Jeffrey Dean Morgan, aka Negan from The Walking Dead. In fact, his performance is probably the best one this season. The show also has a cool soundtrack with lots of classic rock songs. Take that, Generation Z, Back in Black by AC/DC, Wheel in the Sky by Johnny, and most importantly, Carry On My Wayward Son by Kansas. And I would play it for you, but, well, I want to avoid copyright. Damn YouTube. Another thing about this series is its lore. It's filled with vampires, werewolves, shapeshifters, demons, angels, and so much more, although most of that doesn't really show up until later on in the show. This season is largely horror-centric. I also liked the visual style of the season. It's this very dim and desaturated, colorless cinematography that, suits the horror-centric nature of the show. They did do away with it from season 3 onwards, but it made sense. The action was handled really, really well. There's a lot of that. Plenty of gunfights and hand-to-hand combat with some of the monsters, and there's plenty of gore. Well, not a lot of gore, but you get the idea. And jump scares and just general tension and fear and dread. But at its core, the show is fun, and it doesn't always take itself too seriously, and it has a certain level of self-awareness that will definitely be much more prominent in the later seasons. The pilot episode was incredible, and the finale for the most part was great, but I do have one issue with it, and it's just my opinion, but we'll get to that in a bit. Now, this season on its own is one of the most flawed seasons in the entire series, at least in my opinion. Firstly, there are elements of the show that, in this season are somewhat derivative. I mean, the idea of two characters fighting all types of supernatural threats and stuff like that. It's kind of like the X-Files in a way. You've got two characters taking on all sorts of paranormal things, and kind of reminded me of that. And even some of the monsters themselves are basically just rehashes of things you've seen before. That may not be the case if this was your first time experiencing horror in general, but you get the idea. For example, there's a creature that's reminiscent of the girl from The Ring, and there's one monster that I think if you say his name 3 times or something like that, he appears. It's kind of like the Candyman in a way. There's also the Hookman in this season, and it kind of reminds me of the killer from I Know What You Did Last Summer. My point is that this season is probably the most derivative, which is kind of understandable because it's the first season and the show is trying to get its feet into the waters, and this is their first time. But even then, this was kind of an issue for me. Another major issue I have is that although it kind of made sense for the season to have a Monster of the Week structure, for me, I got tired of it after about 5 or 6 episodes. And, out of all the seasons in the show, this is the one season where you can skip lots of episodes and, not really miss out on anything. The main storyline of the season being, Sam and Dean's search for their father is only progressed in a handful of episodes, besides the formulaic aspect of the season in general, with, Sam and Dean posing as FBI agents in order to investigate crime scenes and, discovering the cause of those crime scenes and trying to stop the monster or demon or whatever from doing what they are setting out to do. And then they have some kind of speech in their Impala. Yes, they drive an Impala. And their interactions are fun, but admittedly, after 15 seasons, it's bound to get old. I will now put up a list of all the episodes that you should see. There are episode numbers with asterisks next to them. Those are the ones you don't really need to see, but I'd recommend them because they're fun. But if you're one of those people who prefer to experience the show in its entirety, that's okay, more power to you. But don't say I didn't warn you. So, here's the list. And there are also a few nitpicks here and there, you know, some of the CGI. Most of it is pretty dated, but some of it, you can tell, just wasn't good enough for the time. And there's some clunky editing and a few obvious plot twists with some of the episodes. And I'm also not a big fan of the cliffhanger ending of the finale. I get what they were trying to do, but what happens, without spoiling anything, I would have preferred that happening to maybe somebody else, just to imply that danger is still at large. I get that it's important for the season 2 premiere, but even then, after going back to it, I still haven't changed my mind about it. They could have gone about it a different way. I'm not gonna say how, but they didn't really have to do it this way, at least with me. So yeah, that was my review of Season 1 of Supernatural. So if you haven't seen Supernatural and you want to be caught up on the show, you know, before it resumes in October and concludes by the end of November, then I'd recommend this season. You'll probably enjoy it more than I do, but I know die-hard fans consider this to be one of the strongest seasons. For me personally, it's one of the weakest, not only because the show gets better from this point onwards, but this season alone, even without having watched any of the other seasons, is one of the most flawed, in my opinion. Next time we're going to be looking at Season 2, so thank you all for watching. Please be sure to like this video, share it, and subscribe, and hit the notification icon. As I said last time, I'm setting a goal of 1,000 subscribers, and if I can start off with that, that would be great. So that's it for now. Stay safe during this time, and I'll see you soon.